This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining me on Stockbox today is the CEO of Power Metal Resources, Paul Johnson. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Mark.
You doing okay?
Oh, yes, absolutely fine, thank you.
Excellent, great. So today on the podcast, you were talking about a presentation that the company has released specifically on the Victoria Goldfields. So why have you produced this presentation that's purely focused on this project?
Well, we want to do specific presentations on all of our projects, but this is one that's distinct, it's focused, it's gathering huge amounts of attention. So we thought we'd best start with Australia.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to ask you the obvious question about the corporate interest and, of course, the listing on the TSX. But let's save that. Let's save that till the end. You know, something to look forward to. But shall we go through the presentation?
Sure.
Okay, so shall we? So page 2 of the presentation. What's this all about? This all this text that I can see.
Yeah, it looks like a competition to get the most words on a page.
Yeah,
it's the funny thing. We just have to do it. All the companies have to do it. They have to put in this disclaimer. It's a regulatory requirement. We know that not that many people read it, but if it's there, you're protected. And that's what we do as a public company. I remember a few years ago, I think it was Beowulf Mining actually gave out presentations at an event in London. Buried in the middle of the disclaimer was that, something like, if you read this presentation and email us on this address, and you're the first person to do it, we will give you 100,000 shares in Beowulf.
Okay.
And it was actually one. Someone sat there and read through it and then claimed it, and see, which was a fabulous thing. But there's nothing in ours, by the way. It's just all the regulatory stuff. Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe I will make a point of reading them in future in case that happens again. It might be in vain. But moving on. So now on to page 3. So titled Victoria Goldfields. So I mean, why Victoria? What's interested you to this area?
Well, I've been interested in Australia for quite some time. I was a long-time investor in Greatland Gold from back in I think 2006-07, something like that. And I was involved, in the refinance restructure of Greatland. I did something similar with Rockfire Resources, which is in Queensland. I've been involved with Thor Mining that had projects in Australia, and it's always intrigued me. The best opportunities are the ones that people ignore for a period, and the Victoria Goldfields was ignored for quite some time. Came back to life with the Fosterville mine, which is owned by Kirkland Lake Gold, listed on the TSX and in Canada, and they made some staggering discoveries, found some super high-grade stuff at depth. So for about a year or so, or more than a year now, I've been looking at Victoria thinking, okay, that's a great place to do business. There's great opportunity there. And with the increasing interest in Fosterville earlier on this year, 2020, and Fosterville South listing on the TSXV and seeing a major increase in its price, and more applications going in on the ground, it was just obvious that we had to move quickly. So in conjunction with Red Rock and using their Australian vehicle, we pushed ahead very rapidly to start taking license applications or putting in license applications.
Okay. And all the gold coloured graphics I can see on the map, that's all gold mineralization, is it?
Yeah, you can see the extent of this, and you can see on that slide the amount of gold that's been produced, and with reference to the Ballarat mine there, you can see the kind of gold systems, and it just. If you look at that picture, it's obviously going to be an attractive area, and if you narrow down to Ballarat, which is where we kind of started focusing originally around this area, there is huge amounts of gold in the area. It's just with just reason, it's the hottest postcode in the world for gold exploration at the moment.
Okay, great. And I can see Ballarat's there on the left of that picture, which I guess would be to the west. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's very, very Very interesting on that area. But so let's go to the next slide. So this is slide 4. And here it looks like there are an awful lot actually of exploration licenses. So that's a large footprint. What's going on here?
Yeah, okay. So on the map, you can see the exploration application, license application footprint. You can see on the right-hand side the individual licenses, license application numbers, and with a brief, description, the name of the project, and approximately where it is. Now, we went for this. We'll come on to this in a second, actually, with the next slide. But we started south of Ballarat, putting in the applications, and then bit by bit, in a process that was actually quite rapid for this type of project, we pieced together the footprint that you see there. Now, for each of these projects on the right-hand side, or for most of them, actually, there's a couple, or at least one that we haven't yet done this for. We have technical reports, and those technical reports are on our website. So people can go and have a look at powermetalresources.com, and they can click on the Blue Whale project, and they can see the technical report that was done on that project, and read about the historic work that was done on the property. He'll read about the gold mineralization. They can see the exploration steps. They can see everything. We're being really open and transparent about this, so that people can follow this story and actually have access to detailed information pretty much everywhere across this project footprint.
And there are quite a few there, Paul. Was that your intention to get all these?
Yeah, well, I suppose that it looks like a lot in number, 13 in total. 12 of those applications are uncontested, as it were, and only the final one that was submitted and announced recently, the Outer Ballarat project, has any competition. So there are, I think, 3 other parties that have applied for the same or similar ground, where it's on the basis of merit as to who gets the license awarded, as it were. But the other 12 are solely Red Rock Australasia Pty Limited are the applicants. From that 12, we had 3 of the license applications fast-tracked, if that's the right phrase, and were awarded highest ranking status in summer 2020. And I think in the last month, we've had further 7 applications that have been given highest ranking status, and that means you're pushing ahead, through the process, and you've got the ability to go and advertise your applications, and then move through the process toward grant.
Okay. Well, I think there's a more detailed slide in a couple of slides on sort of footprint that you have in the area. But just moving on to the next one, so slide 5, there's a couple of graphics here that kind of show, I guess they show the other mines in the area, do they? Like what's lying around your license areas?
Yeah, so we put in this slide here really on page 5, I think it is, to indicate some of the neighbours. Everyone likes to talk about neurology and neighbours, and we put the chunky neighbours in there. You can see the Fosterville mine, Kirkland Lake Gold, and you can see Fosterville South and so on. And then you can see our footprint compared to where they are. And you notice that we're focused in the south around the Ballarat mine, but we're pretty much in that central block, crossing through a number of major historic mining centres. So very, very prospective ground that is quite heavily covered in gold mineralisation. And if you look at the next slide, at slide 6, you see that in a little bit more detail. We've kind of narrowed in around the Ballarat area, which is where we first focused our initial applications. And on this, you can see in the scarlet red, there's 3 license applications, the 2 that form a U shape underneath the blue, which is the Outer Ballarat application. And then there's a thin strip, blue ribbon, just north of the Outer Ballarat application. Those scarlet red areas are the 3 fast-tracked license applications that have gone through the process so far. And those are the applications that we would hope to get granted in the near future, so we can move ahead with work.
Okay. I was going to say, what does fast track mean? What does it just mean? They get granted quicker? Does it circumvent some kind of things that would normally go through? Or
basically, the level of interest in Victoria that was that has developed in 2020 has been dramatic, and this has all happened at the same time as the COVID-19 restrictions and challenges to operational life have kicked in over 2020. So from a regulatory perspective in Australia, you've seen a surge in interest in Victoria and increasing difficulty in running kind of office life. I think basically in order to ensure that progress was being made, then organisations have been able to put forward certain applications for immediate attention, and then the local authorities have dealt with other applications in an efficient manner, but slightly later. So there's no, it's not a designated fast track process, as it were. It's just an ordering of the applications and making sure that if there's parts of the application portfolio, as it were, that you want to move ahead with as soon as possible, then the focus could be on those areas, and that's what we've done. So the Scarlet Red are the three that are more advanced in the process, and we hope are in pending grant status. The slightly pinkish red are the other applications that we have that are, again, Scarlet Red and pinkish red are uncontested. There are no other organisations involved. We are the sole applicants for those areas, and that's 12 out of the 13 licences in total. The blue in the centre is the Outer Ballarat area, licence application 13, and there are three. I think it's three other companies, including ECR Minerals, in there that are contesting that particular patch of ground. So, and that will be awarded on merit. So, the thing to focus on this slide is, if you look, you have to scan in a little bit, but if you look, you can see dots for known gold occurrences. Now, in that block, the Scarlet Red block, and in Blue Ribbon block, the thin strip slightly further north, you will see a large amount of gold occurrences. And this is why it's an obvious area to start with, in terms of our exploration work on the ground, because there's so much evidence of gold, and we can push ahead with exploration work with a good degree of confidence that we will find something of merit. Now, where the pinkish red blocks, some of them have quite an intense amount of gold in certain parts, others less so. It doesn't mean they're not, heavily gold mineralized. It just means that perhaps not so much work has been done or recorded on those areas, and that often is where you find your opportunity.
Okay, yeah, it's a very large footprint, and right next to Ballarat and ECR's Creswick project there as well. So that really does demonstrate where you are. Yeah. It's a big area. Okay, well let's go on to slide 7. So what's this then? Is this some more detail on some of the licenses in particular?
We've got these 12 technical reports and that are available on the website, and we just wanted to draw out a few points to show a few examples of this. But if you want to read the full report on each project, just go to the site and you can pick up information from there. Okay, right. Well, slide 8, so the way ahead. This is the future then, I guess. What does it hold, Paul? Yeah, well, that's it. It's important, isn't it? Because past performance and all the rest is not a guide to future success. But in this case, we have a plan across this business, and there's a number of elements to that plan. Obviously, we need to focus on the early license grants, because that enables us to do ground exploration. You can only do a very limited amount of work before the license grants come in, but once they're in, subject to all access approvals or any follow-on permits, that you can do real exploration work, which is important on the ground. We do want to be proactive. The aim of all of this preparatory work, having detailed exploration plans for each project, means that when we get the grants through, we can get on the ground and we can start to do work. We'll be employing local people. Our team thus far are almost entirely local Victoria resident geological consultants or employees, and we can do lots of work. And the aim for that is very simple, that if we can find something quickly, then the value of our package increases dramatically. And so we won't just sit there quietly and just let the licenses bumble on, we will get operational as fast and as furiously as we can to get really good quality work done. So we're very excited about pushing ahead. Now, the potential listing on the North American Stock Exchange, the work for that carries on. And we'll come to that in a second with the 43101 report that we've talked about, and is one of the slides here. Alongside that potential listing, we also have engagement with third parties with regard to joint ventures and other corporate structures on the business interests. And you were going to ask the question, so I might as well preempt you. We generally don't say anything specific about third party interests. We might generically refer to it because it would be, everybody knows in Victoria Goldfields at the moment there's huge amounts of interest. You just have to go on Google and you can see the corporate deals that are being done. And in fact, a little bit later on, we've got a slide in with some examples of corporate deals. But serious corporate deals that have a chance of going ahead will generally be with organisations that require NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, which means that their interests are protected, and that you can't disclose anything until it's all agreed and things move ahead. So you have to respect that if you're to protect the interests of any third parties that you're working with. Also, from a stock market perspective, then you're not allowed to speculate within your announcements. So you would only announce things when material developments had occurred. So it's okay to say, look, yes, there is a lot of interest, and that would be fair to say for our projects. But until something crystallizes in the proper way that's announceable and agreed by all parties, then you're probably wiser to, if you seriously want things to go ahead, to note that and just behave professionally. So I don't want people to feel that our relative quietness with regard to interest in our project areas is us having no interest, because that's clearly not the case. But until we make a material step forward, then we wouldn't make any announcements.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next slide in your presentation. That's slide number 9. So this is some examples of recent corporate action. Is that right?
Yeah, so the best thing we can do is, if people want to see the level of interest, is we can quote factual information for commercial deals that have been done with existing projects in the area. The Canadian companies seem to absolutely love the Victoria Goldfields area. There seems to be some very meaty valuations on these companies when they have Victoria Goldfields interest, and there seems to be a lot of willingness to finance the projects. So if you look at Leviathan Gold that acquired from Fosterville South a few tenements, they were recently raised $13 million actually on $12.9 million, I think, Canadian dollars, which is give or take about £7 million to take those projects forward. So huge amounts of appetite for funding on really reasonable terms, the exploration in Victoria.
But what's your footprint worth then, Paul? Come on.
I had that question in a presentation recently, and I'll give you the same response. I've been marched off by the Nomad and probably locked up if I gave you my views on that. I tell you where we are doing. Focus on getting licensed grants. Focus on launching exploration to do work on the ground, which is good for our shareholders generally, and is really good for the value of the projects, because if we find something, then the value increases dramatically. We are continuing with our work on the listing or potential listing of some or all of the interest on North American Stock Exchange, and as we see on the screen, the interest from the TSX V and the interest from the Canadian Securities Exchange is quite significant. So there's good merit in carrying on that work, and then we carry on engaging with third parties. We don't know ultimately what the valuation will be. We think there is a very substantial amount of latent underlying value in this package.
Mm-hmm.
We want to push that as hard as we can with exploration to increase the value where possible. And if you find a major gold deposit, anywhere in the world, but if you find it in a secure jurisdiction where you're able to push ahead, develop and produce gold, then it has an incredible value.
And just going on now to the final slide 10 in your presentation here, which talks about the NI 43101 report and where you can actually go and download it. I understand that that report is a requirement prior to listing on the TSX, but what's the deal with the TSX listing? Why are you going for that? Do you just feel that there's more interest for gold mining companies on the TSX?
Okay, well, it's not just the TSXV. There are other exchanges, including the Canadian Securities Exchange. There is an obvious interest, given the parties we've spoken to, both from a kind of boring technical perspective about the opportunity, and also from a financing perspective for project level financing, as it were, into a listing, and seeing all the evident vast amounts of money that is being raised for projects in the Victoria Goldfields area. It's obvious it has to be a consideration, and that's why on slide 10 we did the 43101 report, which covers 8 of the 13 exploration license application areas. That is a must-have document, the technical report for a listing in, I'll say, TSXV, and during the time period from applications going into, license grants, we wanted to really push our business forward as hard as we could. So we did the technical reports. We set up, and we're staffing the office in Ballarat. We've done the 43101 that gives us a good level of understanding as to the projects and their potential is important for a listing. And people can read that, by the way. They can go onto our website and that document is there. Again, we're being transparent about this. It's all available for people to read. So yes, you would be wrong if you were in our position and you didn't pursue the obvious areas of interest in the financial markets, and the TSX, CSE, North America generally is significantly interested in Victoria at this point in time.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul, for your time taking us through the presentation you've got on Victoria there.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.